Hello to the world and to the kingdom citizens. I greet you in the precious holy name of Yeshua Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, who said in his word, John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Hi, I'm Dr. John Curry, Ambassador Pan-African, and welcome to the Embassy of the Kingdom of Heaven on Earth. If you want to follow this podcast, please subscribe to JC Global, MSC TV 1, ring the bell, and hit the thumbs up button. Today's message that I have for you has been going on now for the last 3, maybe 4 years. The happening that is going on in Burkina Faso with President Captain Abraham Traoré. I want to just give you a glimpse of what's really going on across the world. And some of you may already know that there was a protest on April the 30th around the world. And I just want to make sure that you understand what's going on globally when it comes to us as Black people and everybody else. So the message today is one love, united Africa, and throughout the diaspora. I just thought you should know.
Nigerians requested Traoré to open up his military for them to join if ever these damn idiots of America try to invade him. I therefore stand representing the rest of Africa, requesting you, Mr. Traoré, to open up your military for us to join and defend Africa.
Have you seen, family, how Africans across the world are responding to these threats that Trump and his people have issued at Traoré? That, I don't know, that general who was saying that Traoré is using his gold to protect himself and I don't know what. They have even decided, I should say we have even decided that April 30th, there will be a global protest. Africans will globally take to the streets.
Right now, the world holds its breath for one man, one leader, one young soldier turned president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. After a failed assassination attempt, something extraordinary happened, a phenomenon no one, not even Traoré himself, could have predicted. Social media erupted, not in outrage, but in solidarity. From Accra to Atlanta, from Nairobi to New York, voices rose together in support, a movement not orchestrated by political propaganda, but born from genuine admiration for a man who simply chose to stand for his people. And for once, the world listened. This is not the revolution of the past, fought with guns and barricades. This is a revolution of minds and hearts. Across continents, young Africans inspired by the memory of leaders like Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, and Muammar Gaddafi refused to let history repeat itself. For generations, Africa's brightest lights were extinguished. Each time, the pattern was the same: fabricate a villain, spread lies, isolate the leader, and finally strike. Sankara was labeled a tyrant, Lumumba branded a communist, Gaddafi portrayed as a madman. After their destruction, the perpetrators were hailed as saviors. But now, people know better. Today's generation is different. Armed with history books, social media, and an unyielding thirst for truth, they have exposed the tactics once hidden behind diplomatic smiles and humanitarian aid packages. Africans, and many around the world, have decided they will not be deceived again. April 30th, 2025, a new date in history. Across Dallas, Atlanta, Nairobi, Johannesburg, Ouagadougou, and even Jamaica, global protests are planned. But these are not protests of anger. They are declarations of hope, a stand for Captain Traoré and against the exploitation of Africa. But who exactly is this young man that has captivated millions? These videos are just a glimpse, a small fraction of the tidal wave of support rising for President Ibrahim Traoré. Even Traoré himself, a man not easily moved, could never have foreseen this level of love, this global surge of solidarity. In the corridors of power across the West,
restaurant is unique because we're serving corn from Illinois to our customers. Corn is important to the Mexican culture.
Across the West, leaders had different expectations. They believed that carefully crafted narratives, amplified by viral videos and trusted figures like General Langley, would poison the public against him, but they miscalculated. Today's Africa is not yesterday's Africa. This is a generation that remembers, that has studied history, and has seen the old patterns. The elimination of revolutionary leaders masked as democracy, the theft hidden behind words like progress and aid. Africans are no longer silent, and they are no longer blind. While many in the West still trust whatever is broadcast by their governments and media, Africans have learned to look deeper, to search for truth buried beneath the lies. They have studied, questioned, and awakened, and they are not alone. Across Black America, in parts of Europe, Latin America, and even Asia, a new awareness is rising. A realization that for decades, those who claim to defend freedom have been the architects of oppression abroad. Traoré's support isn't manufactured, it's organic. It's the result of a world finally waking up and recognizing in him something rare, a leader who serves no foreign master, a leader whose loyalty belongs only to his people. Today, Traoré stands not just as a man, but as a symbol, a living reminder that Africa can still produce giants, selfless, patriotic, and fearless. And now, even the whisper of a plot against him, the faintest hint of an attempt to silence him, has stirred something unstoppable. A fire, a defiant spirit that refuses to be broken. Because for millions watching around the world, Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not just the hope of Burkina Faso. He is the hope of a continent, the hope of all who still believe that true freedom must be fought for. Across Africa and beyond, people are rising, standing firm against the old forces that once shaped their fate. They are saying no to the West's manipulation and no to the traitors within. A spirit that Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, and Muammar Gaddafi once desperately needed now flows through a new generation. Had they received this kind of support from a continent awakened and vigilant, perhaps their dreams would have lived on. But the West, well aware of the public's power, struck first not with weapons, but with perception. They crafted false images of these men. Sankara labeled a tyrant, Lumumba painted as unstable, Gaddafi cast as a madman. Lies, seeded into the global consciousness, until their assassination seemed almost justified. Once the narrative was set, betrayal followed. It wasn't foreign armies that pulled the trigger. It was those closest to the visionaries, manipulated into believing they were saving their countries. And when the blood was spilled, the architects of their downfall celebrated, applauded as champions of freedom and democracy. Only years later, long after the damage was irreversible, did fragments of the truth surface. Even so, many in the West clung to the lies, refusing to confront the brutal reality of what was done in their name and for their interests. One comment found in a recent article captures this mindset perfectly. A European citizen, reflecting on Gaddafi's fall, admitted that Libya had been far more prosperous under Gaddafi's rule, but still insisted he deserved to be overthrown because he was labeled a dictator. Think about that. A man who ensured free healthcare, education, and economic stability, branded a villain because the story needed a villain. This is the power of a narrative, and this is why today, more than ever, millions are refusing to be silent, refusing to let history repeat itself. It's easy to sit in comfort and pass judgment, easy to call a leader a dictator when you've never lived a day in a country where basic survival is a daily battle. In many African nations, the struggle for electricity, clean water, healthcare, and education defines life for the majority. Roads crumble, hospitals are overwhelmed, schools are underfunded or abandoned. To the people of Libya, Gaddafi's era, where access to basic dignity was guaranteed, is not a distant memory. It's a lost golden age. Any Libyan citizen, if given the chance, would welcome him back in a heartbeat. But that chance is gone, stolen by those who masked conquest as liberation. And now the same script, The same strategy was written for Captain Ibrahim Traoré, but this time, the ending will be different. Traoré's supporters have risen, not in whispers, but with thunderous defiance. Enough of foreign meddling, enough of the assassinations, enough of bleeding Africa dry. Never before has a leader inspired a global movement like this. Not Sankara, not Lumumba, not even Mandela at the height of apartheid's fall. Across the world, from Dallas to Atlanta, from South Africa to Kenya, from Burkina Faso to Jamaica, a historic protest is set for April 30th, 2025. A worldwide roar for Traoré's vision, for his defiance, for his hope. The truth is simple. No African leader, no Western leader, has ever witnessed such spontaneous, borderless support. Traoré has made history, not just by being young, but by becoming a symbol that millions rally around. His name is already etched into the story of this generation. And as the world prepares for the historic April 30th march, a question lingers, louder than ever. Who is Captain Ibrahim Traoré? What has he done to inspire such loyalty, such love, such fear? Captain Ibrahim Traoré's story begins in the quiet town of Bondokui, along the dusty roads that lead to Burkina Faso's second city, Bobo Dioulasso. Born in 1988, Traoré's early life was far from the corridors of power. He completed his secondary education in Bobo, then moved to the capital, Ouagadougou, where he pursued his studies at the University of Ouagadougou. But it was in 2010, at the age of 22, that Traoré made a choice that would forever alter his path. He joined the army, trained at the prestigious Georges Namoano Military Academy in Po. He graduated as a second lieutenant in 2012. His military career quickly took him beyond Burkina Faso's borders, serving as a peacekeeper under the United Nations in war-torn Mali, where the fires of leadership were first kindled. By 2014, he had risen to the rank of lieutenant. His true test, however, would come at home, in the north of Burkina Faso, where terrorism gnawed at the edges of the nation. Traoré served in a special counter-terrorism unit, confronting danger head-on. His bravery earned him a captain's stripes in 2020 at just 32 years old. But the country he had sworn to protect was slipping deeper into chaos. In January 2022, Colonel Henri Damiba seized power through a coup, promising to end the terror. Instead, Damiba enriched himself and his loyalists, while ordinary citizens bled under the weight of insecurity. The betrayal was too much for Traoré to bear. In September of that same year, Traoré led a bold, decisive coup, not for power, but to reclaim his nation's destiny. Since then, Burkina Faso has witnessed a transformation few believed possible. Traoré's first priority was clear: secure the homeland. Unlike the leaders before him, he refused to depend on foreign forces. Instead, he poured resources into strengthening the Burkinabe armed forces, ensuring they were equipped, trained, and ready to defend their people. His actions spoke louder than any speech. Traoré was not just leading a country, he was leading a revolution from within. Under Captain Ibrahim Traoré's leadership, the Burkinabe armed forces have undergone a transformation unlike anything in the nation's recent history. Massive investments were made, not in speeches or hollow promises, but in real training, real weapons, real defenses. Equipment that the Burkinabe army once could only dream of is now a reality. Armored vehicles, drones, modern firearms. Tools of war that give soldiers a fighting chance against the insurgents who once moved freely across the land. And the results speak for themselves. The military's capabilities have soared, and for the first time in years, the insurgents are being pushed back. Of course, the Western media paints a different picture. They claim that insecurity persists, that attacks continue, as if forgetting their own failures. For a decade, French forces occupied Burkina Faso, armed with superior intelligence, cutting-edge technology, and endless funding. And yet, under their watch, violence spiraled out of control. Millions were displaced, tens of thousands killed, and nearly half the country fell into terrorist hands. If the West could not solve the problem in 10 years, how can they criticize a man who has made visible gains in less than 2? The truth, buried beneath headlines, is undeniable. In just 2 years, Traoré's forces have reclaimed roughly 10% of territory once controlled by insurgents. A remarkable feat without any external military support. Entire towns and villages have been liberated. Nearly 1 million displaced citizens have been able to return home, to rebuild, to hope again. In the face of relentless opposition, misinformation, and isolation, Traoré is quietly doing what foreign armies and broken governments could not, taking his country back, piece by piece. In 2 years, he has ignited an economic revolution, starting with the land itself. Like his revolutionary predecessors, Traoré understands that no nation can be truly free while it begs for its survival. Food self-sufficiency has become his rallying cry. In one electrifying speech at the Russia-Africa Summit, Traoré openly challenged the world. How can a continent so rich in resources remain so desperately poor? His message was clear. The days of dependence must end. Africa must rise by cultivating its own strength, beginning with the ability to feed its own people.
At Penn Station, your ears may hear, and your craving hears.
Penn Station's cheesesteak, fresh grilled to order, and
True to his word, Traoré launched an aggressive campaign to rebuild Burkina Faso's agricultural sector from the ground up. Cotton, rice, tomatoes, wheat, maize, no crop was left untouched. Across the country, fields long abandoned due to conflict are blooming again. Farmers are returning to their lands armed with tools, seeds, and government support. The aim is simple yet revolutionary. Break the cycle of food imports, empower local communities, and reclaim economic sovereignty from the ground up. But Traoré's ambitions do not stop at the harvest. He has pushed forward manufacturing initiatives to ensure that what Burkina Faso grows, it can also process and sell. 2 new tomato processing factories now stand as symbols of this new era, turning raw tomatoes into puree, reducing dependency on imported goods, and creating jobs for thousands of Burkinabe citizens. What once seemed impossible, a self-sustaining, self-producing Burkina Faso, is now taking root under Traoré's leadership. A revolution not just of arms, but of industry, dignity, and hope. Gold, the glittering prize that once fueled foreign greed and terrorist violence, is now firmly back in Burkinabe hands. Under Captain Traoré's leadership, the gold sector has undergone a stunning transformation. Where Western corporations and insurgent groups once carved up the nation's wealth, Traoré has seized control. He nationalized 2 major gold mines, halted the export of unrefined gold to Europe, and launched the construction of Burkina Faso's first gold refinery. A new waste processing facility has also been established, ensuring that for the first time, Burkina Faso is producing and refining its own gold, on its own soil, for its own people. In just 2 short years, Traoré has achieved what decades of civilian governments after Thomas Sankara could not even dream of. His leadership is marked by a long list of historic firsts. Under his watch, Burkina Faso now boasts its own aircraft, a symbol of true sovereignty. It is staggering to realize that before Traoré, a nation of over 20 million people did not possess even a single national plane. For 40 years, Air Burkina was shackled to a system of dependency, relying on leased aircraft from Western financial institutions, a so-called pragmatic approach sold by the West and eagerly accepted by puppet leaders like Blaise Compaoré, who himself owned a private jet while his country leased its dignity away. But behind the polished rhetoric of pragmatism was a brutal truth. The leasing agreements were designed to bleed African national airlines dry. They were just another part of a broader pattern. One-sided deals, financial traps, disguised dependency. The West maintained its grip not through open colonization, but through contracts and debts that kept African nations forever reaching outward, forever needing. Traoré has not only exposed this system, he has begun to dismantle it. And in doing so, he has sparked something far more dangerous to the old world order, a blueprint for true African independence. Traoré's arrival on the scene shattered the old order. Where others saw pragmatic deals, Traoré saw chains. Without hesitation, He acted. With the support of a silent partner inside Burkina Faso, he purchased the country's first national aircraft, the Embraer 170. A simple act with monumental symbolism. Burkina Faso would no longer beg for its wings, but the Embraer was just the beginning. Under Traoré, the nation began to break through barriers that had stood for decades. For the first time in its history, Burkina Faso now has its own treasury deposit, a true act of financial independence. Before Traoré, like so many former colonies, Burkina Faso's monetary reserves were trapped within the central bank of West African states, a relic of French imperialism designed to maintain economic control long after the flags came down. Successive civilian governments never dared challenge the system. They accepted it, they fed it, and so, the wealth of an entire people remained tethered to decisions made in Paris. But Traoré is cut from a different cloth. He does not speak of sovereignty as a dream. He fights for it as a necessity. He understands what too many before him ignored, that political freedom without economic freedom is an illusion. In the words of General Abdourahmane Tiani of Niger, an ally in the new Sahelian bloc, money is a sign of sovereignty, and we are engaged in a process of recovering our total sovereignty. No longer would Burkina Faso be the cash cow of France. Under Traoré, the chains are breaking, and the nation is rising. This is why Traoré moved swiftly to establish the first ever Burkinabe treasury deposit, a seismic shift in the nation's financial history. For the first time, Burkina Faso can conduct its own financial transactions independently, bypassing the colonial relic of the Central Bank of West African states. No longer would Paris have a hidden hand in Burkinabe affairs. More than a symbolic gesture, this move sets the groundwork for an even greater revolution: the gradual elimination of the CFA franc, the currency that has chained West African nations for decades. With its own treasury deposit, Burkina Faso now holds the power to forge a new currency, a true instrument of sovereignty. And it's this spirit, this refusal to bow, this relentless pursuit of true independence that has captured the hearts of millions. Traoré is not like the old leaders of Africa, whose words soared, but whose actions stumbled. He is a man who speaks little and does much, a man who does not negotiate the dignity of his people. In a continent weary of betrayal, he stands out as the kind of leader Africa has long yearned for: strong, courageous, and unapologetically loyal to his land and his people. Since rising to power, Traoré's popularity has exploded across the continent. A moment that symbolized this came during the inauguration of Ghana's President John Mahama on January 7th. As leaders from across Africa gathered under the spotlight of global media, it was Captain Traoré who received the loudest, most thunderous applause. Louder than any president, louder than any king. It was not just applause for a man, it was a roar of approval for what he represents. A new kind of leadership, one that speaks directly to the dreams of Africa's youth, and a growing, undeniable tolerance, even preference, for revolutionary, military-led change. Recent surveys confirm what the streets of Burkina Faso already knew. According to Afrobarometer, nearly 2/3 of Burkinabe citizens believe the army should intervene when leaders abuse their power. Acceptance of military rule has soared to 66%, a staggering rise from just 24% a decade ago. And this survey was conducted during military rule itself, proving the depth of the people's trust. It's simple. The majority of Burkinabe stand firmly behind President Traoré. Only a small, privileged few, those whose access to power and corruption he has cut off, stand against him. It is these isolated traitors, hungry for lost influence, who have conspired with foreign forces to plot his downfall. But their betrayal was met with overwhelming rejection. Those who believe in Traoré, those who believe in the future he is building, stood tall, exposing the plot and ensuring its failure. It is a remarkable moment, a chapter destined to be written in bold letters across the pages of African history. One cannot help but feel that the spirit of the great Pan-Africanists, of Sankara, Lumumba, and Nkrumah, watches from beyond, their dreams rekindled in the fire Traoré has ignited. And now,
JC Global, Embassy TV 1. I just thought you should know what's going on globally concerning us as Black people and how we are moving in one love, united Africa, across the diaspora. God bless you. God keep you. Until next time.